mentality is whether I have low self-esteem, I'm passing that on to my children. Whether I'm feeling positive about myself, I'm passing that on to my children. If I have a knowledge of self, I'm passing that on to my children. If I have a quite a good sense of humour, and I see the funny side of life, or I see the funny side in things, and I'm quite positive or uplifting, I see that in my children will get that from me.
If you ill-treat your partner or the male, you pass that on to the children.
Remember, when we look at, there was a brother who was on the TV. I can't remember what his name was, but he was an absolute scholar and genius from America, and he was saying his education, his formal education, came from his mother. He went to school, but his mother taught him he had to read one book every single week. Now he's one of the top scientists throughout the earth. Why? Because he got a lot of his skills and qualities from his mother. It doesn't mean that father doesn't have a huge input. Father does. But mother, in the beginning, is the one who teaches and trains the children. Now, I was thinking about home education, brothers and sisters. And I was thinking about, well, I could talk about home education, the kind of websites that I use and the books that I use and the methods that I use. But then I said to myself, but hold on. All children are home educated. Education, the drawing out, starts from home. So I was like, but hold on, we're all home educators, brothers and sisters. So
whether we know it or not.
Whether we know it or whether we appreciate it or not, because I can always tell whether we take time with our children, sisters, based on how the children are eating at the table, based on the terminology that the children are using.
That's right.
Based on the way that they're pushing themselves up and running around and dive bombing around in my settee, or, we learn that.
Based upon whether they wash their hands when they come in.
Oh.
Or take their shoes off when they come in.
Yeah, or whether they want to debate with us over whether they feel like they need to take their shoes off or not, because I don't do it at home. All little things. And, it's not to say that our children are all going to be taught in exactly the same way, because some children, I have them coming in the house and they weren't taught, they're not necessarily taught at home to take their shoes off. But because that's something that we as Muslims do, when they come into my home, you become my child too. And in becoming my child, then I'm going to teach you the way that we do things in our home, because you may learn something beneficial from it. In fact, you will learn something beneficial from it. So it's about us learning from one another. But again, as females, we have to take up our role and responsibility. There's no point in condemning sisters in the community for wearing short and tight and wearing things that you can see their undergarments, and then doing it in my house.
Yeah, but that's education as well. That's the miseducation. The miseducation not of Lauryn Hill, but the miseducation of the black woman or the female of the world, full stop. And the dumbing down of the society, which is constant. It's on a constant, which means we have to be on a constant in the other direction to try and prop it back up again.
Every single thing that we do, we're teaching something, whether it's good or bad. From the way that I walk around my house, because as I was saying, I don't walk around my house. You do not see me. You better bear witness. My husband and my children do not see me, brothers and sisters, walking around in sloppy, dirty T-shirts or something and little leggings or jeans or something. I just don't do it. Because as a female, I'm supposed to be teaching everybody who comes into my environment that I'm the best that I can be and that I'll look the best that I can. It doesn't take a lot of work. It doesn't take a lot of effort. You're going to have sisters who say, well, what's wrong with the T-shirt and jeans? You're going to have sisters who say that. You're going to have people who say that. Of course. So
what would you say to them then?
I'm saying that we're always supposed to be a reflection of being the best that we can be. When the sun, look, even if we just look at the sunshine, the sun doesn't have like a bad day or a relaxing time where it just goes and flops about in T-shirts and jeans. It's about us always being the best that we can be.
The sun would burn up those T-shirts. I take your point, sis.
Thank you. It's about us always being the best that we can be so that we can encourage our children to be the best that they can be. We learn, because we're living in such a physical environment and physical society, the physical has become very important. So with the physical aspect of ourselves, we have to take great care, because sometimes that's the first, it's not sometimes, it's all times, first impressions count. And so if I'm teaching one thing at home and then I'm teaching another thing outside, it's counterproductive. It becomes counterproductive because what I'm doing is I'm saying one thing in one environment and another in another.
Okay.
When within the education of a child has to learn the same thing at school and at home and wherever else they go in order for them to understand the principles. But because they're learning one thing at school, they're learning another at home, they're learning one thing at mother's, they're learning another thing at father's, that everyone's confused.
You're talking about us becoming the embodiment of that which we speak.
Exactly. And God,
which we're having a real struggle with in our families and community, because we hear the nice words, we see the nice words on the blogs, on the MySpace, but do we see that imagery wise? Do we see that in ourselves, in our action wise? Not necessarily the case, and we've become really expert, if I can use that word, at rationalizing, not becoming the embodiment of that which we preach, and that's real satanic.
Yeah, and it's about being the best that we can be. The way that I try and do it, brothers and sisters, is if I'm not comfortable with someone taking my picture in the way that I'm dressed, I shouldn't be dressed that way.
Come on.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Because our children are taking pictures frame by frame, second by second, every time that they look at us. Our husbands are doing that. Within Islam, we're taught that as a wife, you do not go to the door to wave your husband goodbye or give him the greetings or something in your dirty dressing gown or in your dressing gown and your slippers in your rollers. We don't do that. It's non-productive. Why? Because when he goes out into society, when we come out of our houses, everyone's dressed to the max. They're dressed in a way that they know they're going to be seen. So if you're going to be dressing down and every other female's going to be dressing up, that's a door that you're leaving open.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
All praise is due to Allah.
But it's about, again, us giving the best that we can and giving the best of ourselves to our family, to my husband, to my children.
All praise is
I've
due
got to do that.
If you could just wind it up, sister, because we've reached that time. If you just joined us, brothers and sisters, we're looking at education. We've got life drawings, but I prefer the title, Education, the Manifestation of the Glory of God. That is so heavy. But if you could just close it off, and we'll continue this next week by Allah's grace and mercy, sister.
Okay, within the role and function of a teacher, we're minors, brothers and sisters. It's about drawing the best that we have out of one another. But that means that I've got to learn to draw the best out of myself first. The Bible speaks specifically about a good bishop, how he's got to be the husband of one wife. His children have got to be decent. His character has got to be good. All of these different things, all of these different requirements on us as teachers. In order for us to teach the best to our children, we have to be humble. In us learning how to be humble, it means that we're able to listen. When you listen, we're able to hear what's inside of the person or in the people who are learning so that we can draw the best out of them. Let me just give you an example. I was speaking with Joseph during the week. Joseph has been learning to tie his laces. Now, he was there for about half an hour trying to do the two loops on his laces. Now, I had taught him previously the day before to do one loop. He didn't want to do the one loop. He was more comfortable doing the two loops. He took half an hour. I said to him, Joseph, you need to take a lesson from your brother. I asked Elijah to go and teach his younger brother how to tie his lace. Elijah said, Joseph, do it with one lace, with one loop. Joseph said, no, I'm not doing it with one loop. I'll do it with two. Now, I got very angry with Joseph because that's absolute arrogance. One of the reasons why we're not learning from one another is because we're being too arrogant. In order for him to learn to tie his lace, he had to listen to his brother. Elijah was teaching in a calm and effective manner, but the student also has to listen. Joseph didn't know, but he'd put himself in a position of a teacher when he didn't know himself.
Yes.
Because he didn't know, I said to him, instead of being arrogant, listen to what's being taught to you and you might learn something. As soon as he listened and as soon as he acted on what he'd heard, he was able to tie his lace in no time. Brothers and sisters, in order for us to learn, in order for us to be educated, and in order for the best to be drawn out of us, it means that we have to listen. It also means that we have to listen to God, reflect on God, and go through God to one another in order for us to be able to learn from one another and in order for us to teach one another effectively. Brothers and sisters, may Allah bless us this week to take the time to reflect on who we are and all that we have to give ourselves and one another, as I leave you in the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. More next time, inshallah. And we're clear!
Tough.
Education.
Yeah.
Education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a bit hard because you took me right away from my notes and you just went into areas that I hadn't gone to yet.
Are you saying I'm not a good follower?
No, you're not a good follower yet.